Hey Guardians, in this week's episode, I want to talk especially to those of you who are brand new to the game Destiny 2, or maybe you've taken a long break and need to get caught up with your fellow Guardians who've been playing continuously while you're away from the game. This is something Bungie added a while back that is a godsend to those new and returning players, but there's a cost, which I'll talk about. And make sure you stay to the end as I have recommendations on what to focus on acquiring, especially with the brand new exotic changes coming to Season of the Deep. I also have another Bungie Please segment at the end of the show. Okay, let's roll. Hey Guardians, welcome to the Destiny Help Desk podcast, a show that's designed to help you with the little bits of the Destiny 2 online game. Hey, my name is Todd the Gator, and whether you're a brand new Guardian to the game or a returning player, I'm here to help you explain the constantly changing dynamics of this game, bring you up to speed, and get you ready to jump in and start your Destiny journey. This is the audio component to my YouTube channel, which is Todd the Gator, 2 Ds and G-A-T-R, or you can visit youtube.com/@ToddTheGator. If you're more of a visual learner or want to refresh your memory of today's subject, you will always find a link to the video pertaining to this topic. Just check in those show notes down below there. If you have any questions for me that I might answer on the show at a later time, please email me at toddthegator@gmail.com, or you can send me a voicemail with your question at speakpipe.com/Destiny Help Desk. All of these links will be in the show notes down below as well. There are no stupid questions in Destiny, so if you need answers, please don't hesitate to send them my way. This podcast is here to serve you, and who knows, your question just might help a fellow newer Guardian out there. You can also DM me on Twitter at ToddTheGator as well. All right, let's get into it. So you're looking through your inventory in Destiny 2 one day, and you come across this little pentagonal thingy, whatchamacallit, and wonder, what the heck do I use this for? Well, this is an exotic cipher, and what it can do for you is a wonderful thing. Since Bungie decided to remove portions of the game back in November of 2020 and put the past DLCs into what's called the Destiny Content Vault, the exotic weapon quests were removed as well. Also, as major expansions were being implemented, the previous year's exotic weapon quests that were normally integrated into that year's seasons were retired also. So Bungie needed a way for newer players who missed out on those quests to have an opportunity to acquire those lost exotic weapons. Enter the Monument of Lost Light. In this episode, I'll explain what it is, what you need to acquire these weapons, and kind of explain what they do. And at the end of the episode, I'll give you my recommendations for which exotic weapons to scoop up first. If you look at your current season pass, you might notice that you will get one of these exotic ciphers once you reach a certain level. As of the recording of this episode, the exotic cipher will be available at level 55 for this season. If you want to get additional exotic ciphers, you'll need to visit Xur when he arrives every Friday through reset. I have an episode that explains what Xur is all about. Just check the links in the description below. Getting these exotic ciphers will require a special cipher bounty to get it from Xur. You can use it to get in a random exotic drop from Xur directly, but if you have a certain exotic weapon in mind, or like me, you hate RNG and want a direct path to acquire the exotic weapon, may I introduce you to the Monument of Lost Light in the tower. It's right in between the two player vaults. You can't miss it. What I love about the Monument of Lost Light is that you have a direct path to get that exotic weapon. But it will cost you, in game currencies, that is. There's no freebies here, but once you invest the amount of Glimmer, Legendary Shards, Enhancement Prisms, or Ascendant Shards, it's yours. I acquired most of these exotics via long quest lines in the past DLCs, and they took a lot of investment and time as well. But thanks to Bungie, you don't have to suffer through those quests. Just buy it and move on to the next one. Now, warning here, these exotics will take a lot of currencies, as you can probably imagine. These classic exotics are very strong, though, and you might want to consider getting them. So I'm sure you're asking by now, after my long explanation, Gator, which exotics should I get? Well, all of them. It's going to take some time, but just pace yourself, and as you play the game and before you know it, you'll be sitting on some sick weapons. There are some that I would recommend targeting first, Keep in mind that I may be biased, and what I enjoy may differ from what you might enjoy. But there are some exotics that destroy fools in any season. So that my biases won't deter your decisions, let me give you a brief explanation of each exotic offered. This will save you some time scouring the internet and maybe your sanity as well. So let's begin. The first group of exotics are from the Red War campaign. These are the original exotics in Destiny 2. The first weapon is a heavy-hitting hand cannon called the Sturm. This is in the family of hand cannons called the high-impact frames, very good for cover shooting where each shot does big damage. The exotic trait of this weapon is called Accomplice. When paired with the Drang, which is a legendary sidearm, you can get this from the Helm vendor, by the way. You can swap back and forth between both weapons, and the kills from one reloads the magazine of the other. The next exotic is called the Mida Multi-Tool. This rapid-fire frame scout rifle has several exotic traits. The first is called Mida Radar, which means that your radar is always up, even when aiming down the sights. The second trait is the fact that your movement speed is greater when sprinting and aiming down the sights. The third perk of this weapon is like Sturm. It has a fellow legendary counterpart that creates synergy. When used with the Mida Mini Tool, again, this can be acquired in the vendor in the Helm, it'll grant you additional speed benefits to it as well. This third exotic from the Red War campaign is called the Rat King. Its intrinsic perk is called Rat Pack, where this fully automatic sidearm can gain more damage dealing when other allies have it also equipped, and it can stack up to 6 times when an entire fire team is using it. It also has a really cool glow when it's activated from allies. The next exotic is called the Sleeper Simulant. Man, I remember this quest taking forever to complete back in the day. This is a very powerful linear fusion rifle that overpenetrates targets and bounces off hard surfaces. All I know is this thing does amazing damage to bosses. The next exotic is called World Line Zero. It's an arc energy sword that used to be utilized by speedrunners in setting time records for activity completions, but Bungie has since nerfed crazy movements from this sword to create more balance in the sandbox. The exotic trait is called Tesseract, where when sprinting and pressing your heavy attack, it will blink and damage targets. There are plenty of good swords out there, so as you can imagine, this is not one I would target first. The Polaris Lance Scout Rifle is next. This is a destructive rifle that once landing 4 precision hits will activate a bonus delayed solar explosive round on your next shot. This trait is referred to as the Perfect Fifth. The classic Whisper of the Worm. It used to be the go-to for raid boss damage, but there are so many other alternatives out there that also damage bosses as well. Its trait is called White Nail, where rapidly landing 3 precision hits will refill the magazine. As you can imagine, never have to reload as long as you're accurate can speed up your DPS, your damage per second. The only gripe I have is that this weapon is considered a heavy weapon, and thus uses only heavy ammo bricks in the game. Outbreak Perfected is a 450 pulse rifle that sends damaging nanites on nearby targets when you get rapid hits or precision kills called the Corruption Spreads. This damage can add up quickly, making it a force to be reckoned with. Finally, the exotic shotgun called the Legend of Acreus. This used to be the exotic quest tied to the now vaulted Leviathan raid. It fires a very strong close-range arc blast that overpenetrates enemies. Ever since the stomp mechanics were introduced in bosses, this weapon has not been a favorite for some time for DPS. But Bungie recently has buffed its damage, so time will tell if it's a worthy boss weapon again. The next set of exotics in the Monument of Lost Light is from the Forsaken campaign. First up is the Ace of Spades. This is a 140 RPM hand cannon that has 2 fantastic intrinsic perks. The first is Memento Mori, which reloading after a kill loads the magazine with a few extra damage bullets, and explosions ensue as well. The other perk is like the Mida Multi-Tool. Radar stays up while aiming down the sights. The gun shows a smoking barrel when these rounds are active. It's really cool. Next, another hand cannon called the Last Word. The intrinsic perk is Full Auto Revolver with superb hipfire accuracy and reload speed, especially on controller. You gain bonus damage when these hipfire shots are precision. The first exotic bow introduced is called the Le Monarque, which is one of a few damage over time weapons. The exotic trait, Poison Arrows. Arrows fired quickly after a full draw become poisonous, and precision hits with poison arrows stun the enemy and spread poison to nearby enemies. This bow also has a built-in perk that will stun overload champions without an overload armor mod needed. The first exotic fusion rifle, nicknamed the Toaster, is called Jotun, or Jotun, however way you want to say it. This exotic fusion just wants to burn the world and could do major damage. Hold down the trigger to charge it up, like all fusion rifles, and the resulting shot has a slight tracking and burns whatever it hits on impact. Fun fact, Bungie actually made a toaster in the merch store based on this weapon. Another exotic sniper rifle is the Izanagi's Burden. This hard-hitting sniper has a special perk that when you long press the reload button, will load a giant powerful round to fire but will expend the entire magazine, and you'll need to reload it and rinse and repeat. This used to be a really powerful boss DPS weapon as well, but other weapons have replaced it. But what a beautiful sniper rifle, am I right? The next exotic is another damage over time hand cannon called the Thorn. This is a throwback weapon from Destiny 1, and I remember the questline to get it was intense. You are shooting thorns instead of bullets that pierce targets and deal damage over time, like the Ley Monarch, but it also has a perk where kills with it will leave remnants that will auto-reload your weapon. Another hand cannon is called the Lumina. This is a unique weapon as kills with it also leave behind remnants like the Thorn, but these remnants heal you and your allies. Once a remnant is absorbed by you, you can also hip-fire that noble round directly to allies as well, and partially reloads the magazine. Good cooperative weapon. The first exotic launcher is called the Truth. Again, another callback weapon that I love from Destiny 1. This is an aggressive tracking rocket that can hold 3 in the magazine. Magazine? Is that what they want to... I don't know. Do rockets have magazines? Anyway, but it also has a special perk called Grenades and Horseshoes, where the rocket does damage within close proximity to targets. And you don't even have to directly hit it. It's great for clearing ads and mid-level yellow bar bosses. And of course, it's void energy. The next weapon is a fast-firing auto pulse rifle called the Bad Juju. Another Destiny 1 weapon brought back to Destiny 2. Kills from this weapon refill the magazine, increase damage for a short time, and add more super energy based on a trait called String of Curses, which stacks with the more enemies that you kill. The first exotic grenade launcher is called the Anarchy. I remember getting this weapon on my very first run in the Scourge of the Pass raid. This used to be the weapon for boss and add DPS, as it shoots arc charge grenades that stick to surfaces, and each additional grenade links the arc charges together for kind of a trip line, and it really destroys. A new exotic submachine gun is called the Teraba, which can chew through ads in-game. The weapon has an intrinsic perk called Ravenous Beast, where it stores power when dealing or receiving damage. Once you are notified that it can be procced, you long press the reload button to unleash hell. That 750 RPM gun becomes 900 or 1,000. It's pretty fast. And it chews through enemies. It's a solar energy, by the way. The last offered exotic, if you want to call it that, is the exotic sparrow that makes enemies less aggressive to you when you ride it. From experience, I think they're less accurate as well, but who knows for sure. Certain dungeons like Grasp of Avarice are good places to use this sparrow, so don't count it out. But it'll cost. By now, if you're looking through the Monument of Lost Light, you may have noticed there's an additional currency that's required for these weapons called Spoils of Conquest. These can only be gotten from raid chests in the game, and you can hold up to 240 in your inventory. Just keep note of that. Hey Guardians, just a quick announcement that I've achieved my first goal of reaching 1,000 new and returning Guardians out there on my YouTube channel as subscribers, and it continues to grow every day. In fact, I've surpassed the 2,700 Guardians mark who have subbed to my channels thus far. My goal is to reach 5,000 by the end of the summer, so please help me in that endeavor if you haven't already. And I wanted to thank you for your support, and hopefully the videos I've released thus far have given you some clarity in traversing all the little things of this Destiny 2 game. As the latest Destiny 2 annual expansion has been released, Lightfall, my goal will be to continue to help new and returning Guardians out there tackle the next iteration of the Destiny universe story and activities. But I'm also going to add some more opinion pieces in there as well. Let me know what you think about those. And of course, don't forget my live streams. So keep an eye out on my YouTube channel for these videos, and the audio components of them will also be released here, right here, on this podcast as well in the future. So if you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, Todd the Gator, what are you waiting for? Jump in there and follow the channel, hit that notification bell so you'll be alerted to those videos when they first arrive. So thanks. I also wanted to mention that you can now become a channel member directly to support my content. It's super easy to do. Just click that join button below the video and it will explain the rest. If you become a channel member, you'll receive a special channel member badge that will be visible whenever you comment on my videos and also when in my live streams on YouTube. There will be a member-only chats on live streams on occasion, and your comments will be highlighted as well. So do me a solid and sign up to be a channel member. Think of it as buying me a shot at the bar once a month, just to say thanks. I appreciate you. Now are the Shadowkeep exotics. There are some powerful weapons in here. The first weapon offered is an exotic heavy bow, my personal favorite, by the way, called the Leviathan's Breath. This bow is a powerhouse of damage-dealing ability, but it's slow to draw, which was recently buffed a bit by Bungie. Not only a powerful void bow, but stuns unshielded enemies and has an unstoppable champion shot built in. No armor mod required here. You ever wonder what a sniper and a hand cannon combined can be? Well, here it is, the Ariana's Vow. A high-impact hand cannon that has a long-range scope on it for distance, but also has built-in anti-barrier champion perk. No armor mod required as well. Also has a perk called Death at First Glance, where your opening shot does bonus damage as well. Another exotic fusion rifle, but the first to be used in the kinetic weapon slot. Still requires special ammo though, so keep your pants on. The Bastion. It used to be my go-to weapon to eliminate mad shotgunners in the Crucible, but Bungie felt bad for them, I guess, and nerfed the damage and bolt spread a bit. It's still a fun weapon to use, and is the only fusion rifle to have a 3-shot clip after charging it. Symmetry is a full auto arc rapid fire frame scout rifle that just melts ads. The exotic special perk is called Revolution, where once you build up kills in the gun, you long press your reload button to release arc seekers that track targets. How powerful the seekers are depends on how many kills you powered up the weapon before activating it, and once you run out of them, a base damage will return, so nothing is forever. But it still slays. A very underrated weapon today, especially with the new and improved Arc 3.0 subclass. What happens when you cross a sidearm with a trace rifle? Enter the Devil's Ruin. It has a trait Close the Gap, which has a variable trigger, and you have two options. You can fire semi-automatic like all sidearms, or you can hold down the trigger to charge up a trace rifle shot. It also has a built-in unstoppable champion mod as well. An exotic auto rifle that as you sustain fire, the weapon overheats, causing burn damage to you, is called the Tommy's Matchbook. The catalyst of this weapon can reduce that pain, and things like Warlock Healing Rifts can offset it as well. But with the pain, there is gain though. The damage increase as you hold down the trigger is very powerful. Ever used a 4-barrel shotgun? Me neither. But you can with this full auto shotgun that fires 4 bursts individually or all at once, your choice. The 4th Horseman does great damage to bosses and can be good also. The next exotic is a breech-loading special ammo grenade launcher called the Witherhorde. This weapon has a perk, Primeval's Torment, where projectiles create a damage over time blight upon impact. A truly evil weapon, especially against groups of ads. It's been nerfed a little bit by Bungie lately. It doesn't last quite as long, but don't count it out. It's still a great rifle. Or grenade launcher, I should say. Ruinous Effigy is the first exotic trace rifle offered, which has a special trait. Kills with this weapon convert dead enemies into void transmutation spears that you can pick up and slam onto targets or just punch them in the face with it. Choice is yours. Beautiful weapon design, by the way, one of my favorites. Another exotic sidearm is the Traveler's Chosen, which is a fantastic utility weapon. The perk called Gathering Light, which as you get kills with it, stacks the light into the weapon, and it glows also, by the way. Once you hold down the reload button, all of the stored light will go towards restoring your melee, grenade, and class abilities. I know, it's a lot to talk about. Few more examples to go. The next list of available exotics comes from the Beyond Light expansion. These exotics embrace the new stasis energy introduced back with that campaign. First is the latest shotgun that combines a single slug shotgun with more traditional spread shotguns. The Duality. It's easy to use. For a slug round, you just aim down the sights. For a more spread shot, just hip fire. Easy peasy. Good for DPS and close range ads that are annoying as well. Next, another exotic bow, the Tiku's Divination. A unique solar burning bow that tracks multiple targets and ignites them when hip firing, and follow up with a shot for them to explode. A fiery good time. Good for ad control as well. The first of its kind stasis sidearm, called the Cryosthesia 77K, where after killing an enemy, a long press reload grants a charged freezing shot. A cool weapon. No pun intended. Another linear fusion rifle called Lorentz Driver has a bit of a twist. The exotic perk is called Lagrangian Sight, where the weapon has an automated targeting system. Final blows on the marked targets award a telemetry pattern. You collect 3 of them without dying, and you create a void vortex that swallows up nearby enemies. Some skill is involved here, but the rewards are fantastic. The first stasis trace rifle that is available in the kinetic slot is called Ager's Scepter, but still uses special ammo, by the way. This weapon possesses Ager's Call, which, when killing an enemy, generates a burst of slowing and freezing stasis energy. You can freeze multiple targets and shatter them from the ice. I've used this personally. It is a very good ad control kinetic trace rifle. 2 Witch Queen exotics are also available from the previous 2 seasons this year. The first is an unusual weapon classified as a heavy slug launcher. You know, those annoying things that are hurled your way from those nasty cabal. It's called the Grand Overture, and now you can have one, and the perk is called Wrath of Colossus, where once charged can fire a full auto arc slugs. It also has a perk called Omega Strike that loads missiles from slug hits, and once you hold down the reload, will launch a barrage of missiles toward the targets. I haven't mastered this one yet, but it looks like fun, and from what I can hear, it does oodles of damage. Finally, the exotic arc sidearm called the Trespasser, a throwback weapon from Destiny 1 that after defeating a target, reloading causes a more powerful super burst. It's a pretty fun sidearm, especially using an arc subclass. They do list the exotic pre-order auto rifle called the Quicksilver Storm, which supposedly is considered a new tech in the new Lightfall expansion that's now out. It's now available to everyone. It has a unique perk called Rocket Tracers, whereby you can land multiple hits on a target. Subsequent micro rockets are fired that track enemies. The time that I've used it has been fun, especially against ads and yellow bar enemies. Just a side note here, a lot of these exotics also have improvements that can drop in game from various activities called Catalyst. Think of it as an enhanced perk on the weapon. Some are okay, but some are game changing. I also wanted to mention that there have been a lot of new seasonal legendary weapons that have been added, as well as their ornaments. So check that out as well. And they're always adding new stuff to this Monument of Lost Light. So just keep an eye on that and see if there's anything you still need to get. Okay, I know this was a long and somewhat tedious episode. Thanks for sticking around, by the way. But I'll now suggest what weapons to acquire first. Your gun type preferences might be different than mine, so take that into consideration, but I'm biasing this on what I've seen in game and what teammates and community members are using, as well as my own experience. In no particular order, number 1, Outbreak Perfected, a solid pulse rifle that's easy to use and destroys everything. Number 2, Mida Multi-Tool. If you need to get somewhere fast and want that aim down the sight's radar awareness, it's a solid choice in PvP or PvE. Not to mention the companion weapon Mida Mini-Tool bonuses as well. Number 3, Polaris Lance. Using a solar subclass with it, this explosive scout rifle is awesome in PvE, and I've had luck in PvP as well on larger maps. Number 4, if you're looking for boss DPS, you can't go wrong with the Leviathan's Breath. I was surprised when I was using it recently, but the DPS numbers don't lie. This is a great raid boss weapon, and considering what we old-timers had to go through to get it, grab it now. Number 5, Le Monarque. Not a big bow user, but the damage over time can melt things in PvE, and can be very annoying and oppressive in PvP. Get it. An alternative, if you hate bows, is the Thorn, which basically does very similar things. Number 6, no matter how you pronounce it, the Jotun is a fireball of destruction. Once you get used to the charge time and the fact that you get no close-up splash damage on yourself when shooting enemies charging at you, it's a required piece of equipment in PvE and PvP. Number 7, Bad Juju. With the great place that pulse rifles are in the Crucible and the outstanding utility, this rifle's hard to beat in whatever you do in Destiny 2. Get it. Number 8, Teraba. There's not many exotic submachine guns out there, and this one just chews up enemies, and even better in the Crucible. Make sure you put it on the list. Number 9, Traveler's Chosen. Sidearms are the meta in PvP at the moment, and even if sidearms got nerfed tomorrow, you can't deny that this little sidearm has so much utility in generating abilities. My favorite sidearm in the Crucible right now, plus being fully automatic, now gets even better upgrades in the latest season. Number 10, Wither Horde. There are a lot of activities in this game where little red bar enemies are there to distract and annoy you. Throw down a blight from the Wither Horde and just ignore them. I mean, seriously. It's a PvE must-have. Alternatives, and I might be a little biased here, but still need to be on the list. Full disclosure, I am not a hand cannon fan, but if I was to use one, the Ace of Spades would be it. 140 fire rate and basically a Mida multi-tool equivalent in a hand cannon form with more damage to boot. If you can't get the Gallahorn, grab the Truth rocket launcher. Having 3 back-to-back shots and proximity detonation is great for ad clearing, especially whenever there's a void burn modifier in effect. If you're enjoying the new ARC 3.0 subclass, you might want to consider the Symmetry Scout Rifle. The tracer rounds alone can create chaos in whatever activity you're in. It will hold its own in the Crucible as well, in skilled hands. Well, there it is, a full list of what you can get with a little grind and zero reliance on RNG. Again, I wanted to reiterate that as seasons come and go, Bungie has begun adding seasonal vendor weapons and other things in the Monument of Lost Light as well. It's always growing, so stop by and look it over. It's right next to the vault you're always standing next to all the time anyway, so take a look in there. Hey Guardians, I really recommend watching the video form of this podcast episode today because not only does it show you visually what these weapons look like, but it also shows you situations where you would use them and also demonstrates the perks of the gun. And then you can decide whether you think it's cool or not. Just wanted to throw that out there. One other note here, Guardians, as this news just came in from Bungie after I recorded this podcast. Thanks, Bungie. But I wanted to just touch on it here. I totally stand by my recommendations I listed out to you earlier, but there's been some recent changes and improvements to some of them, and I just wanted to point them out here. These weapons, if already not powerful enough, are getting even better. So look at these weapons even closer when deciding to grab them up. Jade Rabbit Scout Rifle. Lumina Hand Cannon. Legend of Acreus Shotgun. Tommy's Matchbook Auto Rifle, and the Bad Juju Pulse Rifle. This Pulse Rifle just might be the meta gun next season. So my number one pickup might be this little Pulse Rifle in the Monument of Lost Light. It is going to be super accurate coming next week, so take a look at that. There have been a number of reticle and field of view changes to exotics and also new weapon information while aiming down sights of exotics as well, which makes them even more important to start grabbing up these little beauties. Well, I hope this sheds some light on the great weapons that are available to you right now. So start grinding, Guardians, and maybe Bungie will add a Monument of Lost Light for exotic armor in the future as well. I know my fingers are crossed. Hey Guardians, it's Todd the Gator here with another Hey Bungie episode. I used to grind out Destiny 2 every day with whatever time I could spare. I love the progression and leveling up, just hit all my dopamine centers in my brain. But as of about a year ago, maybe longer, I really can't remember when this happened exactly. Bungie made a change to something that really never needed to be changed. It never caused an imbalance in the game. It didn't disrupt anything, to be fair. All it did, in my opinion, was discourage Guardians from engaging in those activities. What am I talking about? Well, let me ask you a question. We're gamers, and this is a looter-shooter game, right? So my question to you is, why did Bungie feel the need to make vendor bounties not count towards the new vendor progression system? You know, back before this happened, if I wanted to jump into the tower, pick up a handful of the daily bounties from Zavala, and then proceed to fly into the Vanguard playlist and get them all done, all of course while completing my weekly vendor challenge, I would gain additional vendor XP to unlock engrams, or now it would have unlocked really cool things, including seasonal vendor weapon and ornaments, currencies, much more. Such a value for time played would be so cool. But now, I honestly really don't even care to grab these, let alone complete the vendor weekly challenges. I know I can get a pinnacle item every week and a small sample of bright dust when completing 8 bounties from the vendor as well. But beyond that, why continue to grind out those strikes? And don't get me started on the lack of new strikes. But don't get me wrong, in Destiny 1, I adored strikes, as I could either solo the Nightfall every week as a challenge, or really have fun getting through the regular strikes with friends. But it also continued to level up my vendor to boot, unlocking new weapons or give currencies to buy them right off the wall. I feel like so many things in Destiny 1 were removed from Destiny 2, and this one just doesn't make sense to me. Making vendor bounties and even repeatable ones count towards vendor progression would, in my opinion, create much more repeat play with these vendors. I miss being able to load up on Gambit bounties to reset my rank, but now it's just all about grinding away at Gambit matches. It's just not motivating to me, and I have a feeling it's not motivating to you either. Once I get the weekly pinnacle, I'm out. My friends say the same thing. Can you imagine a new season where this was changed back? I think many new, returning, and yes, even veteran players would jump back in and engage with this, thus keeping more and more Guardians visiting the tower. Of course, I also think that bounty expiration timers are a terrible idea, which I posted a video about earlier this week. I'll post a link to that right here above. With the latest season arriving next week, I do know that Bungie made Vanguard bounties able to be completed anywhere in the worlds and not just in the Vanguard playlist, and that's a great first step. But Bungie needs to appeal to our inner gamer again, and remember why we like to grind the game. You may just think I'm a complainer here, but I really think this would only help improve engagement in this game I love in the future. Thanks as always for listening, and be kind to your fellow Guardians in the Destinyverse. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode. My next episode will be all about another little thing you might want to know in this game we all love. Just a reminder that if you want to join our community, go to discord.gg/GuardianDowncast. That's where my longtime friend Hazelnut and I have another Destiny 2 podcast for new and veteran Guardians alike, where we interview content creators and community members to discover their story and journey in Destiny. We also talk about the current issues in the community and game and go over the latest news from Bungie. This sounds like something you might want to check out. The link will be in the show notes down below as well. Lots of quick little links down there, so check them out. Finally, if you have a question relating to the show that you want answered, you can email me at toddthegator@gmail.com or send me a voicemail at speakpipe.com/DestinyHelpDesk. I want to help you out, so let's hear them. Lightfall is here, and there's a lot to do. Thanks again for your time, and later, Guardian. Nope, sorry. What can I say? Another perfect episode in the can. Hey, keep checking though. I do slip occasionally, and I'll put those bloopers right here. I'll see y'all later. Take care.